Check this one out. Seattle sues Glock over illegal devices that modify guns to allow automatic firing. We're not going after the criminals doing the modification. We're going after the gun manufacturer, Glock. Does this make any sense at all? I'll give you a hint. Elections are coming up, and somebody's behind in the polls. Let's get into it. Here we go.
In tonight's Operation Crime and Justice report, the city of Seattle has sued gun manufacturer Glock, accusing the company of being responsible for an increase in shots being fired in recent years. The city wants Glock to change their design to make it more difficult to illegally modify the firearms. Couples Jeremy Harris spoke with City Attorney Ann Davison about her decision to sue Glock, and he spoke to critics who say the city is aiming at the wrong target.
It's a small device that has led to a huge increase in the number of rounds being fired in the city of Seattle. Now, City Attorney Ann Davison is taking aim at Glock for what she says is a dangerous design.
Their unique design makes it very easy to, within minutes, very cheaply, change their semi-automatic weapon to a fully automatic weapon.
The device is called a Glock switch, but don't let the name fool you. It's not made by nor endorsed by Glock. These are illegal devices that modify the gun to shoot through an entire magazine in seconds. Police have seen a massive spike in the use of switches in the last 3 years.
Maybe years ago it was 3 or 4 shots fired. Now it's 20, 30, 40, 90 shots fired. I'm asking them to match standards by their competitors, which is to make it difficult to convert their weapons into fully automatic weapons.
Glock switches are illegal to either make or possess, but here's the problem. They're not hard to get your hands on. They can be bought online, or they can even be made with 3D printers.
Where does the problem lie? The problem lies with people installing these on firearms. That's an illegal activity.
William Kirk of Washington Gun Law says the city is focusing on the wrong target.
The problem is not the gun manufacturers. The problem is not the lawful and responsible gun owners. The problem are the people who are committing the criminal acts.
Amen.
If Seattle truly does have an escalating gun violence problem, how much of that was caused by their choice to de-police the community? Because how's that worked out for the city so far?
The city's lawsuit says Glock switches are responsible for more than doubling the number of rounds fired in the city each year. Your critics will look at this and say you should be focused on holding offenders accountable who actually convert the handgun.
There we go.
As opposed to the manufacturer. What would you say to that?
It's both. We must go what is maybe called upstream to where the source is, where these are designed and put into the market. And they are done so by Glock, and they know that their design is so susceptible to this easy conversion. And that's what we're taking issue with.
I think this is a waste.
And she's the Seattle City Attorney. She is 14 points behind, and she needs to appeal to the nut jobs on the left of Seattle who dictate how races go. And as a result, she's launched this lawsuit. Let's blame the gun manufacturer. I mean, I get what she's doing. She is a moderate, and I have had zero issues with most everything that she's gone after, and she's been tough on crime. But this makes no sense at all. How about we incarcerate those? How about we go after the gang problem that we have? What about that? How about we go after the gang members? How about we go after the pimps? How about we go after the human traffickers who are clearly running around the streets, willy-nilly doing their shenanigans, and incarcerate them when it comes time? Instead, we just let them, in and out of the justice system. We let them live in our parks. We let them live on the streets. We let them do whatever. And then we wonder, when it comes to, a good old gang fight, they're going to automate those weapons. You can why would you buy a machine gun when you can just get a Glock, which are readily available, and do a quick thing? I mean, that's illegal too. Why pay the extra money for an actual machine gun? I mean, and those are just, wildly illegal, but you're doing the same thing. Why don't we make that, such a substantial crime that people don't do it? Because we're not about that in Seattle. We're about blaming big corporate. We're about blaming anybody but the actual perpetrators of the criminal activity. And you can see it in our crime statistics. Everybody wants to say things are down in Seattle. I'll show you some stats.
of time. I think that there's a piece of federal legislation that's going to shoot this lawsuit out of the sky, and I think she's probably doing it for political reasons.
In Seattle,
100%. This is truly a political move. And you know what? I don't really blame Seattle City Attorney Ann Davidson for doing this. I don't. She is behind by 14 points, roughly, in the primary. And she lost 37-51. She's a moderate. And this is very similar. What she's doing is very, very similar to what Bruce Harrell, who was also losing, who was also a moderate that ran on tough crime stance, and he's cleared homeless encampments. Bruce Harrell went with a statement when we had Christian groups coming into Seattle and holding worship services. They literally came to Seattle and held worship services. And Bruce Harrell painted them as extremist right-wingers. Extremist right-wingers, like people doing prayer and people reading from the Bible, people, working with the gospel are automatically extreme right-wingers. And from that standpoint, I thought, what a goofball. But from a political standpoint, he's got nobody on the right that's going to elect him because there aren't enough people in Seattle to have that move the needle. But when you go after churchgoers as extreme right wingers, then you're going to get that far left vote. It's pretty simple. And that's what Ann Davidson is doing here. She's trying to get that vote. Hey, look at me. I'm virtue signaling that Glocks and guns are bad because Lord knows those Glocks just jump up, throw a switch in, and then they just fire on their own, just automatically fire on their own. Yeah, they do. I mean, it's Seattle. Anything can happen here in Seattle, right? So when you go to a crime scene now, and we're repeating here, instead of 3 or 4 casings that are recovered, it's 50 to 70. Davidson told Como News, Glock's unique design makes it very easy to, within minutes, very cheaply, change their semi-automatic weapon to a fully automatic weapon. Do we need to do a lawsuit to, criminalize this design? Or do we just make it so brutal for somebody to do this that they're like, nah, I'm not going to risk 10 years of my life putting a switch in this gun? But we've done that. We've made it so that criminals can run around and do their criminal activity. And everybody knows crime pays in Seattle. And yes, you can get away with it. You can get away with it. I mean, same drill down in Portland, Oregon. Criminals know, hey, don't get busted in Washington County. Make sure you get busted in Multnomah County because, the other counties, they're a little bit tougher on crime. You've got this political ideology that's just literally based on ideals versus the hard truth, which is you've got a bunch of gangbangers running around shooting each other with automatic pistols because they've altered them in such a way that they're now tiny little machine gun, a Glock machine gun. So it's kind of like going to, use a ridiculous example of, we have a lot of Molotov cocktails. We have, glass containers where you've got a rag jammed in the top and they're filled with an accelerant. And oftentimes it's gasoline. Going after, big oil because their gasoline is too flammable. We need to cut the flammable nature of this gasoline down because these peaceful protesters are using it to lob at people and it's really lighting things up. Maybe we need to go after the jar container manufacturers because they're making an object that is too handy to easily just take off the rack at the grocery store, dump the stuff out, put some gasoline in, put a fuse at the top and throw it. I mean, we need to get after those glass manufacturers. Or how about going after whomever made the material for the fuse? It's too easy to put that in a jar filled with gasoline. You guys need to come up with a different design. You guys need to come up with a different way of, making this stuff so that it's not flammable. So that people, no. Everybody knows that these guns are illegal, but it's because we don't do anything. That's why criminals feel like, yeah, why wouldn't we put a switch in? So knowing that the design is susceptible, I mean, that's absurd. It's absurd. But that is politics in Seattle. That's literally politics in Seattle. Go after that far left vote because we're a bunch of nut jobs here. We're a bunch of people that we've lost our connection with reality. And so you go down these ideology, which is, it must be the gun manufacturer. And people will bite on that. They will literally bite on that because most of these people in Seattle are feckless individuals. They're weak and they don't have guns. So they're like, oh yeah, let's get rid of all the guns. Well, no, it's kind of like AOC saying if guns were illegal, they should be protected by the Constitution. And you're like, huh. All right, apparently you haven't read that, but whatever. I think this is a waste of time. Kirk told Como News, the problem is not the gun manufacturer. The problem is not the lawful and responsible gun owners. Problem is the people who are committing the criminal acts. 100%. That is what this is all about. And this particular lawsuit is political. It's a political stunt. And it's not a bad way to go because she isn't really offending anybody that could possibly be her, a constituent of hers that's going to vote for her. Because in Seattle, you just got a bunch of, nut jobs that are up to shenanigans and their head is so far up their ass that they can't work out. Oh, this is what's going on. They're all worked up by all this other stuff. How about this story that I just recorded? Seattle closes 3 parks for 60 days, citing negative activity. Park officials literally came out and said, we've got some negative activity going on here. There's negative activity happening. We're hoping to replace that with some positive activity. They don't even want to talk about what's actually going on anymore because they can't, they have zero control over their own parks. They just close them down because you got a bunch of homeless people selling drugs, sex trafficking, human trafficking, buying and selling stolen goods. I mean, defecating anywhere they choose, needles, smoking the smoking the fentanyl, just doing whatever. And city officials have absolutely lost control. Absolutely lost control. So now we're closing parks for 60 days, citing negative activity. I mean, it is so embarrassing. So embarrassing. Neighbors say problems are getting worse. Yeah, because the things are shifting. So Seattle crews clearing Lake City encampment following deadly shooting. 2 people murdered at one of the parks that we're talking about. 2 people murdered, but hey, let's sue Glock. Let's sue Glock. Let's go after the gun manufacturer because that's a genius idea. Yeah, 2 dead North Seattle shooting. Okay. Suspect charged in violent volunteer park attack. You've got story after story after story of this stuff going on in Seattle parks, and it's because it's a people issue. It's not a gun issue. It's not a gun issue. It's a people issue. And when you drill down to who's doing the criminal activity, nobody wants to arrest them. They don't want to address them because the optics will look terrible. Oh, you're arresting criminals? Good Lord. What kind of a progressive are you? They need to be out on the streets doing their thing. I mean, this is Seattle. We're not arresting anybody. We're not prosecuting anybody. Anything goes, right? I mean, anything goes. And that's what you've got. And now you're getting just a little bit of pushback from people who are concerned. I have great concern about what's going on at the park because our politicians basically tell the police, hey, we don't really want you going after those folks, and you don't have enough membership in the police force anyway to effectively cover public safety in Seattle. So that ends up in what we've got going on, which is just kind of a free-for-all. Cal Anderson Park overrun by growing homeless encampments, yet City of Seattle said, it's resolved. Oh, it's fine. It's fine. It's like when inflation was just going to the moon and Biden kept saying, it's nothing. It's transitory. Don't worry about it. Look over there. Look over there. Everything's great over there. Yeah, but we're not able to buy our groceries anymore. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? City of Seattle, it's resolved. There's no issue. It's resolved. How about Seattle man's repeated park damage arrests highlight flaws in mental health intervention? That was 𝗧𝗜𝗠𝗘𝗦𝗧𝗔𝗬. He, stole an excavator and drove it into a park, and he got arrested 4 or 5 times, and I interviewed him there. He was digging for gold. He was digging for, diamonds. And when he showed me what he had come up with his excavation setup, open ore mining pit, he had some pebbles. I mean, not bad looking pebbles. He had cleaned them. He had washed them. But he had pebbles from the dirt of a Seattle park that city officials couldn't work out how to arrest him and keep him incarcerated for long enough that he wouldn't just repeatedly come out. I think 5 or 6 times he ended up in the park. I went over there, a handful of times and yep, there's 𝗧𝗜𝗠𝗘𝗦𝗧𝗛. Well, he's still here. Here he is down at the bottom of the park. So this whole notion that we go after the gun manufacturer is not a stretch. Here's another great example of leadership in Seattle. Neighbors and parkgoers clash over effectiveness of new fence at Nude Beach Denny Blaine Park, where they've had extensive sex acts going on at a public park. And Seattle city officials, they don't want to offend the people that are boning each other in the park, or maybe just, doing a little of this action at the park. They don't want to offend them because it's an alphabet park. And so their solution is to literally bring up a kind of mesh fence material, put it in a wire fence, in a chain link fence, and say, okay, past this point in the park, it's nude. You can do nude things, but you can't do nude sex things because that violates the law. That is their solution for little Johnny and Susie who want to play at the park, who want to go to the waterfront park area now, but they can't because there's kind of this barrier and a sign up that says, well, past here, anything goes, and you might see some nudity. Instead of arresting the people that are committing the sex acts, they put up a barrier that isn't really a barrier, and they make a nude beach that wasn't nude before, so that they can protect the criminals doing the criminal sex acts. Does that make any sense at all? No, you just take the police, which you've got plenty of in an ideal world, and you send one over and you start arresting people when they're orally copulating or taking it in the you-know-what from each other in public while you've got kids there. It's absolutely mind-blowing that this is where we sit, but it's a city based on ideology. It's not a city based on what's reasonable. It's not pragmatic. Well, what do? Well, we don't want to offend anybody, so we'll just put up some green stuff on the fence and hope nobody looks. Don't go up to that green fence too close because you might see something down at the waterfront. It's absolutely mind-numbing. It is shocking, but it's also, this is progress. This is progressive. This is what progress looks like. These are the very issues that progress looks like. Good stuff. Podcasts, days, weeks, months, decades. Make sure you're subscribed, hit that notification bell, and I'll see you on the next episode. Bye for now.